All right, Tate, the prodigal son has returned to Bloomington, Indiana.
He's back.
Hell has frozen over. Bob Knight, we just witnessed. I'm gonna say it slowly because I don't think it's true. I need to really just digest this. Bob Knight just walked out to center court of Assembly Hall in front of a sold-out crowd, got a standing ovation, started crying, smiled at one point.
Yes. I mean, not even smiled, like just completely open, agape, just filled with joy. His heart grew 10 times larger, whatever you want to say.
I was on the verge of tears. This was just my childhood all wrapped into one.
Yes.
They're cutting to Gene Cady. He goes over and talks to Dick Vitale. He calls Dick Vitale crazy. He starts doing that to Dickie V.
He refused to dap him up or give him a handshake. Dick Vitale, all he wanted was the acknowledgement from Bob Knight.
Yeah.
Bob Knight kept his hands to himself.
I can't stress. I mean, this is. I tweeted this is the biggest upset in college basketball history, and I truly believe it is. Like this was by far the messiest divorce that college basketball's ever seen. When he left in 2000, when he was fired in 2000, this is a man who it started out where he hated the administration. He hated Miles Brand and basically the people that fired him, no one that stood up for him. Then he started to hate like the state of Indiana. Then he started to sort of like it felt like there was hatred towards the fan base. Then there was hatred towards everything, and there was. And a lot of people I've seen on Twitter are confused as to why this is such a big deal. It's like this guy's a bitter old man. He's been an asshole to everybody. That is precisely why it is a big deal. This is like a redemption arc of like this is all anybody's ever wanted was him to swallow his pride, come back to Bloomington, just provide closure for everything, and it finally happened. I cannot believe it actually happened.
As Seth Greenberg said when they cut back, he said, "This is closure for everyone, including the current team." So maybe
as we're recording this right now, like right before halftime, the current team gave up a 12-0 run, and I think they're down like 9 or 10 right now.
That's the only fear I have for Indiana basketball. In one sense, it is a revival and a remembrance for Indiana basketball, but also if this closure means that Indiana basketball is over, then
it's closure for the program. It's over.
This is the best we got. This is the best we can do.
They implode Assembly Hall.
Yeah. Isaiah Thomas, we did it.
So to recap, Bob Knight once went on Dan Patrick's show and wished death upon everyone.
Yes.
Like he literally said, "I hope they all die." That's what he said about the people that fired him.
And Dan Patrick's like, "You don't mean that."
Yeah,
Bob.
Bob's
He
like,
said, "Yes, I
yes,
do
I
mean
do."
that. Double down.
It got so bad that Dan Dockich, who is was a Knight disciple for 16, he also went on the Dan Patrick show.
Yes.
Funny enough. How did Dan Patrick become the guy?
He's the king of Indiana, Dan Patrick.
Dockich goes on Patrick's show, says he hates Knight, wants nothing to do with him, have no relationship with him, don't care to have a relationship with him, on and on. Pulls no punches and talking smack about Knight, which was illuminated. This was a few years ago. Maybe not even that long.
No, it was
semi-recently, right?
Because it felt like it was a foregone conclusion this would never happen.
If there was one guy you thought was in Knight's corner, it would have been Dockich. He was a Knight guy forever, and for him to say that, you're like, oh my God, so it might really be over. But you see, like, Isaiah Thomas is crying. Mike Woodson's there. Quinn Buckner's there. Butch Carter. Like, all these guys have come back. A.J. Guyton, Kirk Haston.
Yep.
I don't know what Mark Cuban, Sage Steele.
Yes.
I don't know what the event actually was. They said they were honoring, on the little thing, it said they were honoring the 1980 team. And then they're showing A.J. Guyton and Pat Knight and Kirk Haston. I'm like, were they on the 80 team? I don't remember them on that.
I'm scared this might be closure. It does seem like this is a curtain call. Like everyone came together and they put on the jackets were amazing. Adidas did a great job.
Great jackets.
The number and your name and everyone's wearing the same jacket. It was such a spectacle. And I feel like the thing we always talk about with Indiana was like, how do we get the eyeballs back to Indiana? It's funny that it had to take Bob Knight walking back into Assembly Hall to get everyone to say, oh, Indiana basketball, this is it. Yeah. This is a moment we're back.
He did not look like he was in great shape. But I think that plays into it as well. I think that's the lesson to be learned from this is like he does not look like he's long for this earth, and he wants to bury the hatchet. And I don't know. I buy into that. You know me. I'm an optimist. I believe in redemption. I believe in the prodigal son returning. I believe in all of that and mending those fences. And I feel like what eventually got him there was just the mass of players that were there. All of his former players love him, which is interesting to me too, because I said that to you. I was like, yeah, the guy's an asshole, and like when people talk about him publicly, they're just like, what a dick, and there's a laundry list of like things he's done to people and things he said. But the people who knew him best, the players that played for him, to watch them like bawling their eyes out, like grown men bawling their eyes out and hugging it, and they're all just, I don't know. maybe he's not that bad, or maybe there's like another side to him. I don't know.
Yeah, there's usually layers to
maybe he's not like completely evil. I don't know. Just a thought. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
There's a range. There's a spectrum. And it's funny because like Bob Knight was always like either you die a hero, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Like Bob Knight had become a villain, and then he worked his way all the way back. Now he's a hero again.
Right.
So he's like the first person that's gone hero, villain, hero,
right.
which is nice. Like I mean, I think that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
You can't overstate, in all seriousness, what this does mean for the program, because his shadow has loomed over not just Indiana, but just not just the program of Indiana, but kind of like just that whole era of college like there's just but for IU specifically, there's a cultural just war going on within Indiana basketball, where a lot of people did not want Bob Knight fired.
The old age, the old school, like this is what Indiana is, and then it's do we adjust? Do we move?
There's
forward?
the old heads like my dad who. I don't know if he
the
necessarily
Butch Carter
feels this
fans.
way. Yeah, the Butch Carter fans that loved the Knight era, want to return to the Knight era, not necessarily with Knight, but with a guy cut
like
from
Knight.
The cloth of Knight.
Yes.
And then there's the new age that like kind of wants Indiana to just be Kentucky and Duke and play the one and done game and just be the brand, have a big brand and put guys in the NBA, and like that's what we care about most. And there's been that tug of war, and to have Knight come, I don't know if this solves the problem, but at least like. Because whenever you're talking about let's return to the old days of Knight, then the problem is like, yeah, but Knight hates us, and Knight like we don't want that. And I'm not saying that's what they need to do. I'm just saying that like there was this big shadow looming over this. So now we can put that to bed, and now Indiana can figure out what they want to be. Bob Knight has given Indiana the stamp of approval. He says, "I do not hate you anymore. I've come back. Be whatever you want this program to be. You don't have to. I don't know if you all said all this. It looked like all he was saying was defense.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say you talking about like the
he
direction.
didn't have a microphone. I didn't hear what he said. But
the direction of the program is pretty simple: play defense. And the best part about that was, I think Bob Knight, like you said, he looked like he was moving a little slow as he's doing the walk, and then all of a sudden he starts pushing his former players and yelling defense at him, and everyone's getting excited. He goes to find a microphone so he can yell defense. Instead, he just starts doing the chant.
He really
by
did.
himself.
He's just walking around trying to find a microphone. He's trying to give a speech. Like Bob, the halftime break is 10 minutes, dude. We gotta get the players back out here. It was one of the coolest. It was the coolest moment of the season for me in college basketball.
Yes.
But again, I'm biased. I grew up an Indiana fan.
But in a season where no moments really have happened that are going to stick with you, this will stick with you. 5-10 years, depending on where you are. If you're an Indiana basketball fan, whatever it may be. And you mentioned the shadow. Jay Billis said it perfectly. He's like Iba was the one that the shadow casts larger over college basketball. He says Bob Knight is that guy, and you can see that 40 years ago is when we're honoring this Indiana team. It is 20 years into a new century, and he walks on a court, and everyone in that building stands up and applauds and cries.
You can make an argument that Bob Knight is the single most important figure in college basketball history.
Exactly.
You really could,
yes.
because he brought Coach K into this. He didn't give birth to Coach K, but he Coach K is a Bob Knight disciple, and just all the influence that Bob Knight has. Love him or hate him. I don't know, man. Cool moment. Just a cool. I honestly did not believe I still don't really feel like we saw it. And
will he ever come back?
Come back again?
Will he come back
now
again?
Starts the discussion of like,
when is Bob coming back?
Yeah.
I mean, he is there. He said he loved the fishing in Bloomington. He said he had players there. I mean, he will be around. I think the best part about it, you've checked the box now. You've had this moment. Now maybe Bob Knight is like Gene Katie, and he's just watching games, and it's casual.
Yeah, now he can come back and wear the hat and have his own signature on his shirt like Gene Katie does.
Exactly.
Yeah, to have Katie there was so cool too. To have Gene Katie there, just the whole.
Such a good clapping. He's just like, yeah, please give me my.
There's a lesson to be learned in this life that nothing, in the words of the great philosopher Justin Bieber, never say never.
Never.
Never. There's always, you can always fix anything. You can always come back home.
And for the old school Indiana fans that didn't get that joke, back in the day, the Eagles said they would never get back together, and if they did, hell would freeze over. And then they made an album, basically saying that, and that was the last time we had this moment. So we did it.
This is it's staggering. Bob Knight is back in Indiana. I don't even care what happens with the game. I'm sure they're gonna. This is the biggest must-win game in Indiana history, and Indiana's probably gonna lose.
But who cares?
Who cares? They've already won.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the thing.
Yes.
That's the thing. They've already won. Indiana's
Bob Knight
already
does
won.
not believe in moral victories, but if it's about him, then he does.
And if you're upset that Bob Knight got a standing ovation, if you're upset that people love Bob Knight, it wasn't for you in the first place, so he doesn't care. And I'm sure Bob Knight has a message for you that he would love to send back to you.
He said it on the Dan Patrick Show.
Yeah. So there it is, Bob Knight back in Indiana.
Congrats, Coach.
For the best access, perspective, and personalities in all of sports, follow us at Fox Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.